AI can write SQL for you, but here's the problem. Can you actually understand the SQL that it generated? Because whether you are learning SQL or you are an experienced developer reviewing AI generated code, you probably shouldn't just copy and execute it blindly. And this is where Oracle Select AI gets really interesting. In this video, we are going to use Explain SQL feature to understand AI generated queries, and then we look at narrate, summarize, and few other features of Select AI.
Welcome back to my channel Into the Oracleverse, where we learn about Oracle SQL, PL SQL, and Apex. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button.
Before we start, this is a continuation of my previous Oracle Select AI videos. In those videos, we configured the Select AI with Cohere, and we have created our database objects and created an AI profile exposing our customers, products, and orders table. We then asked questions in natural language like show customers who purchased electronics but never bought furniture, show all electronics products, etc. We then asked these questions in natural language and Select AI generated SQL and executed it against our database. We also looked at show SQL, which lets us to see the actual SQL generated by Select AI, and that's the one that we see here. And that's exactly where I want to pick up today, because once AI gives us the SQL, we need to understand what it actually generated. Let's take this query that we used in the previous video. So I'm asking show customers who purchased electronics but never bought furniture, and the Select AI generates the SQL for us. And if you are a beginner looking at this query, this can be quite intimidating with not exist and several other moving things. So instead of simply copying this query and moving on, let's ask Select AI to explain the SQL it generated. So that's where we have the explain SQL feature in place. So there is a shorthand syntax that we can use. So we can just type explain SQL here after Select AI, and we can just execute it. And yes, so we are able to see the result here. Let me copy this and let me paste it in a new place. And yeah, let me go to the preview mode. So we would be able to go to the preview mode by pressing Control plus Shift plus V, so that the result would be more readable. So here we would be able to see that the result is in a markdown format, and hence we are able to see those formatting and other things done. So we would be able to copy the SQL just by clicking this, and we would be able to know the entire explanation of how what features are here and how those filtering is done, and we would also be able to see how not exist is used here, why it is used here, and things like that. So with this, now I get a natural language explanation of what this SQL is doing. It can help me understand the different parts of the query, and more importantly understand how the business requirement was translated into SQL logic. If you are learning SQL, you can use the generated query as a learning opportunity. You can see a business requirement, see how AI translated it into SQL, and then ask Select AI to explain the query. You can then go back to the SQL, understand each clause, modify it, and experiment with it. For experienced developers, this can provide a quick head start when reviewing AI generated SQL. Instead of spending the first few minutes figuring out what a complicated generated query is trying to accomplish, you can get an explanation first and then perform your own review. Of course, an explanation isn't a substitute for validating the SQL. You still need to review the generated SQL query, especially before using it in production environment. But explain SQL can make that review much easier to get started. So now we have a really good workflow here. So with the show SQL, we would be able to know the SQL that would get generated for this particular use case. And with explain SQL, we would know what that SQL or how that SQL is framed and what it would be doing. So that's much better starting point than blindly accepting AI generated SQL. But Select AI isn't only about generating and understanding SQL. What if we have already got the result and we want AI to actually explain the data to us? That's where Narrate comes into play. I am using the same database that we have set up in the previous video, and I have my database up and running in Docker so that I am able to experiment with this very freely. So if you want to set your database in the Docker, so I have a dedicated video for that. You can get use it and you would be able to set it up in a much easier way, and then you'd be able to experiment all the 26 AI features without any hassle. And now let's continue with this part. So first let's see this particular part. So if I just run this part, if I just run select AI and if I just provide a particular query, a particular natural language query, so it would actually run the SQL. So it would run SQL, perform the run SQL action, and it would show the actual results here. Yes. So I'm able to see that the customers who purchased electronics but never bought furniture are John Smith, Emma Wilson, and David Lee. Now, if I have the particular thing stated as narrate, now if I just provide execute it again, yes. So here we would be able to see that the responses here are the customers who brought electronics but never bought furniture, John Smith, Emma Wilson, and David Lee. So here we are able to see that the actual resultant data is being explained. So the explain SQL explains the SQL which is bringing us these values, and this narrate is explaining the data which is the result of that particular SQL query execution. With this, we would be able to explain the results in a much better way. So I can show a particular result here as well. So yeah, when I ask it to show total sales by category, so now the SQL query is being generated and it's being executed. And here we are able to see the response in Markdown. We are able to see that the data is split as bullets, and then we are able to see that electronics, the total sales amount is 4050. And for the category furniture, we have the sales amount set as $700. So this is the power of narrate. So with this, we'll be able to explain the results to the end user in a much better way. Now, let's move away from the database query results altogether. What if I simply have a large amount of text and I want to extract the important information alone? So that's where we have a separate select AI feature called as summarize. I am giving select AI a sales report containing information about revenue, categories, customer acquisition, and product performance. Rather than manually reading the entire report, I can just use summarize. So here I have an example. Let me just execute it. So yes, and here I get a much more concise version containing just the important information from that particular paragraph. So this would be useful when the input text is too large and we just need the important content to be extracted and to be processed during the entire workflow that we have. When we are calling this particular summarize with the DBMS Cloud AI package, we would also be able to set the resultant length of that summarize text. So this would be useful in places where the total number of characters in the summarized output is very important. So yeah, so that is one another feature capability that we have. And then we'll move on to the next capability. It is translate. So right now I'm not going to demonstrate it as I don't have the supported provider with me. So I just have the Cohere with me right now, and hence I'd be hitting this particular error. But there are certain AI providers with whose endpoint can be used to get this particular feature. So you would be able to get the relevant things translated. Sorry, this one. So here we would be able to see the actual providers along with the language that they support. So we have some 74 languages from AWS, certain things from Azure, and we have Google, and we also would have OCI. So with these AI model providers, with these AI providers, so we would be able to support translations for this particular text, so that even if the end user needs the data summarized in a different language, so we would be able to do that. So we would be able to combine two different things in a single statement like this. So I have the generates narrate as well as the summarize coming in the same part. So I would be able to do this. So I'd be able to get the actual narration of the top three best-selling products, and I'd be able to summarize it in a better way. So yeah, so we would be able to combine the relevant things of our interest, and then we would be able to set it in the right way so that it can support the things better in our workflow. Now, we have seen several features, but where does Select AI actually make sense in a real application? Imagine I have an internal sales application. I want my sales team to ask questions about customers, products, and orders. They don't necessarily know SQL. They don't necessarily know the database schema, but they understand their business questions. Select AI can provide a natural language interface to that particular data. But here's an important part. I don't necessarily want AI to have the context of my entire database. My database could contain hundreds of tables like HR data, financial information, audit information, internal configuration tables, and so on. For this particular use case, I only need customers, products, and orders. So that's where the AI profile becomes important. So we can configure the profile with the database objects relevant to our use case. And Select AI then has that metadata and object context available when generating the responses. Now, this should not be confused with the database security itself. Your normal Oracle privileges, roles, and access controls still matter, but the AI profile gives us a way to define the context and objects that Select AI would work with for this particular AI use case. So now in this particular case, the sales team can ask questions about customers and products without knowing sequels. And analyst would be able to explore the data conversationally and inspect the SQL that was generated. Developers can use the show SQL, and they would also be able to use the explain SQL as a starting point when working with complex AI-generated queries. And students or learners, they can use generated SQL as a learning tool, not just as something to copy. So you can also build an application-specific AI experience where the profile is configured around the data that is relevant to that particular application. And that's what I really like about Select AI. It's not just simply give a question and get SQL back. Rather, we can see what SQL is generated, and we would be able to understand it, and we would be able to execute it with the help of Select AI itself. And we can also ask it to explain the results, and we would also be able to summarize the results as well as the other contents as well. And we have still only covered a small part of what Select AI can do. So if you are following this series, make sure you subscribe. In the upcoming videos, I want to go deeper into some of the capabilities. We'll see if we can create a similar internal sales assistant application with the help of Oracle Apex. And then we would be able to explore more areas in and around the Select AI feature. And if you haven't watched the previous video yet, you might have to start there because that's where we built the setup and we have created the database context that we are using here. Thank you so much for watching.
If this video helped you learn something new or find what you are looking for, please give it a like. It really helps the channel. I'd also love to hear your thoughts, so feel free to drop a comment below. And if you are interested in more content like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again in the next video.